Welcome back to the Bucs Planet Podcast, everybody. I am, of course, your host, Will Neely. And what a time to be alive. What a time to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, as the Bucs have just traded a fourth-round draft pick to the New England Patriots in return for tight end Rob Gronkowski, who unretired after being retired for one season and is now going to reunite with his former quarterback and future Hall of Famer, Tom Brady. I mean, this is unprecedented stuff for fellow Bucs fans everywhere. And I would also like to say I'm sorry about the audio issues that we were experiencing on the last episode where my volume sounded way too loud. I hopefully fixed that issue. I guess we'll see once it's posted, because when I went back and checked the audio on here, it seemed fine, but then when you upload it to YouTube, it got messed up. So hopefully that issue is fixed, so the podcasts are definitely more enjoyable, because I understand I need to go out and buy a real microphone, but we'll do that eventually. And anyway, this podcast was supposed to be about the draft, who the Bucs should draft, who we should be targeting, what we're looking for, what would be a good draft class, what would be a bad draft class, what you guys should be looking out for come draft night and two nights from now, from when I'm recording this. But our episode today got hijacked by Rob Gronkowski, because he is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Rob Gronkowski is the Tampa Bay Buccaneer tight end, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneer quarterback is Tom Brady. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. And I have to just say something right off the bat here. This trade means absolutely nothing to me. Nothing. This trade means nothing. Do you know why it means nothing? Because what are the things the Bucs had good? The things that I said the Bucs are good going into 2020, and what are the things we need to improve? Good things, good receiving core, like very good wide receivers, the tandem of Evans and Godwin, best in the league. Then you got, we have two of the best tight ends in the league, O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. And that sums it up. That's it. Because we need an offensive line. We need a running back. We need defensive backs. That's what we need on the football team. And what did we do? We traded for a position that we don't need, and gave up a valuable draft pick, a fourth-round pick. A lot of people say that's not that valuable. I went back and I looked. The Bucs in the recent years have drafted notable players in the fourth round. Mike Edwards last year, starter. Jordan Whitehead a couple years ago, starter. Quan Alexander a few years ago, starting NFL middle linebacker. Fourth-round picks are not complete throwaways like most sixth and seventh-round picks are, and even sometimes fifth. I know, kind of ironic, because Tom Brady was picked in the sixth round and now he's on our team. Okay, 1 in a million chances that happens. Fourth round is a decent draft pick to just ship off, especially for a player who hasn't played football in an entire year. And he has a history of injuries, from his back to his legs. He's been injury prone the back half of his career. He's way out of his prime. He's been retired, and he was wrestling last year for the WWE. I mean, I don't understand. And now everyone, the uninformed people of society, think that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't understand. O.J. Howard was young, cheap, fast, had all the size and tangibles you wanted. His production wasn't great. I will give you that. His production was not great. But Arians' system does not feature tight ends. So why did we go out and trade for a third one? I don't get it. We did not improve. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not improve their roster today. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the same level of roster talent as they did yesterday, but now our tight end is a lot older. That's the only difference. That, in my eyes, as of right now, that is the only difference I see in our roster. We had a young tight end who was good, and now we don't know if Gronk is going to be good or not. Is he the same player? I don't think so. I don't think he's the same player. He's been retired. There's a reason he had to retire early because of his injury history. And if you followed the Bucs at all through your entire life, we know that we love getting injured. Okay, that's our thing. It's like we never stretch before football games. We like to get injured. The Bucs. This is just mind-boggling to me of how this just makes us even more Super Bowl contenders. But it's like if you already weren't Super Bowl contenders and then you didn't improve the roster, how does that make you Super Bowl contenders still? I don't understand because we already addressed in the last podcast we're not Super Bowl contenders. And we didn't improve the roster. We got rid of a good tight end and got another good tight end supposedly. So the roster did not improve. So we're still not Super Bowl contenders. Congratulations. Thank you, Jason Light. All we did was give up a 4th-round draft pick. That's all I see in my eyes. Do you see the roster improving? No. All I see is a 4th-round draft pick that was with us and is now not with us. Because we traded it for a position that we don't need. That's what it is. If you want me to call my shot, say it what it is, we traded a 4th-round draft pick for nothing. That is, I know some people out there, Will, it's Gronk. I don't care that it's Gronk. What if I said to you, there was a really, really elite tight end about 4 years ago, and he had, ever since he got in the Madden cover, he had those injuries, and he had to retire for an entire season. For an entire season, he's been retired. And now he's coming out of retirement after not playing, having extreme injury proneness, and he's on your football team now, and you trade a 4th-round draft pick. Is that a good trade? No, that's not a good trade. That's not a good trade. And I guess I'm assuming that O.J. Howard is going to be traded now because that's what all the talk is. We're going to trade O.J. Howard because there's just no way we keep 3 tight ends. But if you trade any of them, you have to trade Brait. Trading OJ doesn't make any sense. And I have been very, very on this podcast. I've been very hard on OJ Howard is what I'm trying to say. I've chewed him. I've really kind of laid into him a little bit because he had 2 drops that actually cost us interceptions. 2. And I'm sure there's others where he's run the wrong route, slipped, done some stuff. But at the end of the day, he's young. He's 6'6". He ran a good 40 time. He's athletic. I just don't understand why you would trade him. Cheap, young, potential. Now, I understand that in my last podcast and a lot of these podcasts, now that we signed Brady, we're now in a mode of not rebuilding, but of firing on all cylinders because we have to win within the next 2 years. However, And I said, we need to get established players. We need to draft players that can be day one starters, not that could be good in the future. And here's my question to you guys: is Rob Gronkowski is Rob Gronkowski an established player at this point? Is he an established player after being retired for an entire season? He hasn't played football in a year. I would not consider him an established player. I'm sorry. I just wouldn't consider him that. And that's a major problem because not only did the roster not get better, you lost a 4th-round draft pick for someone that you don't even know is established. I mean, he could come here and what's a Gronk known for? Let's be honest here. What's Gronk known for? Partying. That's what he's known for. He's known for being a partier. And where's one of the most, in terms of like the known losing cultures, the known partying cultures? That's the Bucs. We are by far the most iconic team where people just go here late in their career and party. So I would not be surprised at all if Gronk comes here just to party, live in Florida, not try at football, and make our roster worse. That's what I see. That's a valid scenario that could happen. It's happened so many times with so many players of people just coming here wanting to party late in their career. They just want a paycheck, no state income tax. And that's what it sounds like Gronk is to me. I mean, he could be good this season. I'm not saying, I don't want to hear any I told you so's. if this ends up being like such a a monster trade. I'm not. It has the potential to be, but I just I would not play the cards like this. I really would have not traded a fourth round pick for Rob Gronkowski. It's too much. And oh, it's just a fourth round pick. But it's in a player that you don't even know is established. You might as well take a shot on a rookie at that point. He's injury prone. Could be a distraction if he becomes in here. If he comes in here and just all he does is party. Do you see the issue that I'm getting at here? So all these people everywhere, all Bucks Nation, I see these people on Instagram. I'm watching them, and they're all like posting these gifs and these videos of people dancing, like, "Oh, mood right now, mood right now. This is so exciting." I do not care that we signed Gronk. In fact, I'm actually irritated we signed Gronk to an extent because it just this is just a typical on paper. It looks good, but then when you think about it, it's actually not that good. That's just what this is. On paper, whoa, we have Gronk. When you think about it, old, injury prone, unretired, didn't play football at all last year, and we're giving up on young talent. Oh, well, maybe it's not as good as we thought. Exactly. We're not worse. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not. It's not like we made the team worse. It's just I don't know if we made the team better. And I just think it was just a waste of a draft pick when we could have used a fourth rounder to trade for someone else maybe. A position of need. We need offensive line. We need defensive backs. We need a running back. I just don't get it. And now we have to take Gronk's salary over OJ Howard's salary, which by the way was super cheap because OJ Howard's still on his rookie contract. And now it's all just kind of screwed up. And it just kind of frustrates me that all these people think it's such a good trade when it's really not a good trade. I mean, I can analyze the stats. You can look at Bruce Arians doesn't utilize tight ends, so why do you trade for a tight? I don't get it. I mean, this must be Brady just irritating everyone in the front office. That's like, can you please get my friend Gronk? Can you please get my friend Gronk? I'm going to be in a bad mood. I'm Tom Brady. I mean that's the. I mean that has to be the reason why we got him because it makes no logical sense at all to actually make that trade if you already have two good. And by the way, one of them super cheap tight ends. Okay, OJ Howard dropped a couple balls last year. He wasn't targeted significantly much. He didn't get in the game a lot, but he's a good run blocker and he has so much potential. I believe that if the offensive system incorporated OJ Howard to be in more positions to make plays, he would be so much better because he really only got in on limited times last year and he didn't do great, but I think if we gave him more opportunities, he would have done better, which would have builded his confidence, and he would have just played better overall. But we will never know that because Bruce Arians' offense has never, and probably will never feature tight ends. So why did we trade for a tight end? Again, that's up to Jason Light and his. We know if you want to remember anything about me, just know that we don't like Jason Light on this show. Okay, if this is your first time listening, if this is your last time listening, I don't really, whatever it is when you're watching, the one universal idea that you should be picking up from this podcast is that we do not like Jason Light. Okay, he's one of the worst GMs I've ever seen. Okay, that's what we need to be picking up. That's like the theme of the Bucks Planet podcast. Jason Light is bad. Simple enough, right? So this is a trade that doesn't really surprise me when you think you have, Jason Light as a general manager. It does surprise me when Arians was probably in on it too. I just don't really understand the direction we're going in by getting Gronkowski. I really don't. I mean, at this point, I have to embrace it. I have to understand that Gronk is on my tight end. It is kind of hype. It's like we got Gronk. Like that's hype. Like I understand where a lot of people are coming from, and I have a little bit of that in me myself too. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a boneheaded move. Let's be honest here. Like it's Gronk, but it's also old tight end, injury prone, hasn't played football in a year. Expensive, kinda. He's only gonna play for a couple more years. Was that worth it? I don't know. You see, when you really sit back and think about it, was it really worth it? I don't know. I really don't. Only time will tell. I can't guarantee anything now, as of right now, but time will tell if this was a good trade. I'm not a huge fan of this trade. Just to be clear, I don't absolutely hate it. I definitely don't like it. That's a fact. I definitely don't like it. As of right now, I would definitely say if like there was a middle, like I'm indifferent. I'm not indifferent. I definitely don't like the trade as of right now. But I would be like slightly I don't like the trade. I'd be definitely leaning towards the side that I do not support the trade rather than in the middle. With that being said, though, I still want to address a lot of the draft topics for Thursday night because again, that's what this podcast was supposed to be about before we got hijacked by Robert Gronkowski. And I'm going to tell you exactly what the Bucs need to address in the draft. Offensive line, running back, safety. Offensive line, running back, safety. And maybe a speedy wide receiver late in the draft. Okay, let's break it down. First round, there's 4 tackles, and we need to get one of them. There's 4 first-round tackles, and we need to pick one of them. So far, the top 4, I'm just saying this in any order, we have Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs, Malachi Becton, I don't remember his first name, last name Becton, tackle from Louisville, and Andrew Thomas. Those are the 4 first-round graded tackles, and we need one of them. And my pick out of all of those guys is Jedrick Wills from the University of Alabama because I have watched film on him. I've watched people watching film on him, and pretty much everyone is at the same conclusion that have actually watched film. He is the most polished, ready day one starter in the NFL. He does not have the most potential, I'd say, because Tristan Wirfs, we all saw the combine. He's a freak of nature, the strongest, fastest. I mean, it's kind of insane, but his technique is bad and sloppy at points, and he would be a project. I don't know if he'd be a day one starter, and there'd definitely be some growing pains in that first season. We don't have time for growing pains. Jedrick Wills is the most polished day one starter with good footwork. He just sits back there, blocks his guy, does his job, is smart. This is the guy I want. Now, will he be there at 14? Probably not, but there is a chance if some teams think that they can, maybe coach some of the good techniques into Wirfs and some of the bad ones out of them, and then you could potentially develop a Hall of Famer. The Wirfs is that talented. His raw talent is off the charts. Becton, similar. He's, huge guy, very strong. He has some flaws too. And, Andrew Thomas is a guy that used to be the number 1 tackle, and I haven't heard much about him. I haven't really watched any film on him. I haven't really heard his name that much. I'm not really sure about Andrew Thomas. I'm sure he's good, obviously, as he's so graded as a first-round pick, but I'm just a little unsure about him. Jedrick Wills is the guy that I want to be a Buccaneer. It's just the problem is he's just not going to be there, and we're probably going to have to settle for Becton or Andrew Thomas, which is fine. That's fine if Bruce Arians and our coaching staff thinks that they will be a good player in the NFL. Wirfs I am a little scared about because he just sounds, from what I've heard, like so much of a project that I don't want to deal with it. I want a plug and play guy. Okay, we're trying to make a bowl run here, boys. We want a plug and play. We don't want a plug project, growing pains, then play. Then you'll be good in a couple years. No. That's not the route we're going down now. We need plug play now. Thank you. So, first round, we're definitely going to need to be targeting a tackle, and I can almost guarantee you we're going to get one of those 4. If we do not get one of those 4 players, then let's just I'm just going to put this out here now. My next podcast is going to be a lot more angry and a lot more yelling than this podcast was, just to put in perspective of how I would react if we did not pick one of those 4 players and tried to pick someone else. Now, the second round and the other rounds is where it gets kind of interesting because we have O.J. Howard as trade bait, Cameron Brate possibly a trade bait. So, what could we do? Now, we need a running back to be to not make our 43-year-old quarterback have all the pressure on his shoulders. He needs to be able to hand it off to a guy who's consistent, is fast, and can catch a couple balls too. And I want to be clear now, we do not need any running back. We need a Tom Brady running back. What do I mean by a Tom Brady running back? What's a Tom Brady running back mean? A Tom Brady running back is someone who's fast, runs good routes, and can catch the ball. That is a Tom Brady running back. Nothing is more, no one's more of an example of that than his former running back, James White, who's not a fantastic runner of the football, but he runs good routes, almost acts like a slot receiver, and can catch the ball. That's what we need. But we also need a 3-down running back at the same time. So we kind of need like both things here. So which one kind of, at the end of the day, I guess what we really need is someone who can run the ball and catch the ball. So I know like pretty much every other NFL team is saying like, okay, so do we, but we actually like do need that like really badly, because that's exactly what fits Tom Brady's system. We want to have a guy who can run the ball decently well. He doesn't have to be fantastic, but decently well, a 3-down running back that can catch passes. The catching the passes is really the key here, because any running back is good if they have a good offensive line. It's just how it works. They're at the NFL. They're obviously good at what they do. If they have good blocking, they're going to run far. It's just how it works. But we need a guy who can catch passes, because Ronald Jones has proven that he can't really do that yet. That was his knock coming out of college, and it's still his knock today. The number one running back I'm looking at, I think, is going to be Jonathan Taylor, the running back out of Wisconsin, 3-year starter, Heisman contender. He's finished top 5 multiple times in the Heisman. He's a great running back, and he could have declared last year, but he decided not to. And from everything I've read, it sounds like he is the primary best pass catching back in the draft. I've heard, Swift is really good too, but he'll probably go first round, and we might not be able to get him. And J.K. Dobbins, I heard, is pretty good at it too. But Taylor runs a 4.39. He's a 3-year starter, and I really like him. I really like Dobbins too, though, and I really like Swift, if you want me to be honest. I like Swift, Dobbins. I like Jonathan Taylor, and I can like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I like all of them. I like Cam Akers too. Yeah, I know this is not the greatest of insight I'm providing here, because honestly I like all of them. And since this is a very rare occurrence where there's 5 people and at the same position, and I honestly don't know who I want the Bucs to pick out of those 5 people, because they all have their own unique skill sets. They all seem like they can catch the ball, and so at the end of the day, what this needs to come down to is whoever Bruce Arians thinks will fit the system better. Whoever Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich think will fit their offensive system better. So, the thing with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he has great vision, very elusive, and he's a very, very good pass catcher. But the knock is that he's not a burner. He ran a 4.6 at the combine. And I know if you watch his film, it looks like he runs faster in a game than he does maybe, I guess, like track speed when you just time him running. And so his knock is speed, but he has such great vision, pass catching abilities, and it works. I wouldn't be mad if we drafted him. Jonathan Taylor, really fast, consistent player every year at Wisconsin. He can catch the ball. He can run downhill. And then Dobbins, he's very physical. He has a great vision. He can catch the ball a little bit too. He can truck people, stiff arm people, very strong. And then you have Swift, who's a natural pass catcher, runs good routes, and he's part of a Georgia group of running backs who, just all of them are all pros in the NFL. Todd Gurley, Georgia running back that is now great. Nick Chubb, former Georgia running back that's now great in the NFL. Sony Michel, he's not fantastic, but he's not bad. He's a solid NFL starter. And Swift just is seemingly going to be like one of them, just another Georgia running back that's going to be successful in the NFL. So it's almost like you can't go wrong picking the Georgia running back, because all they do is produce good running backs. And so and then Cam Akers, my FSU boy, his stats aren't fantastic, but yet they're good stats, and he ran behind a horrible offensive line all season. and he can catch the ball a little bit too. Not great, not probably. He's probably not as targeted as some of the other guys, so he'd probably be a little raw in that category. Probably have to fix some of those things. But he did a lot with very little last year at FSU. I could easily see him, falling to like the third, fourth. Well, no, can't pick him in the fourth round because goodbye to that pick. But maybe third round, I could see us picking him, and that honestly is not a bad move. And those are the running backs. So whichever of those five running backs Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich thinks will fit them the best, that's the one they should pick, and I will fully support it because let's be honest here. Oh, let's give Rojo a chance to go. Look, Rojo's not. Come on. I mean, he's not terrible, but like, he's not what we're looking for. If you want, we need a 3-down starter. Rojo is not a 3-down starting running back. Dobbins, Taylor, Elair, maybe. I mean, those are the 3-down. Swift. Those are the 3-down guys we're looking for. And maybe, who knows? Maybe you could, in the back half of the draft, you could trade up back into the first round if Swift hasn't been taken, and maybe you can take Swift then, or Jonathan Taylor, or just anyone. Any of those running backs that the Bucs think will go off the board that maybe shouldn't, and they just want to secure their pick. So there's a lot of issues surrounding this, and also our safety issue. And I haven't looked much into safeties, but I have looked a lot into the Alabama safety Xavier McKinney, sorry, that he's supposed to go first round. So if we did not pick an offensive tackle in the first round, the only other acceptable position would be a safety, and specifically him. Because if there's one thing that we've noticed, the Alabama defensive backs are usually studs in the NFL. And I understand this is kind of ironic because the last time we picked an Alabama safety in the first round, Mark Barron, he was absolutely terrible, and then we traded him. But then what happened when we traded him? Typical Buccaneer. We draft him as a strong safety. We trade him to the Rams. The Rams switch him to a linebacker, and then he becomes an all-pro linebacker. So is that on us? Is that on him? Is that just bad luck? Probably all of the above, because our coaching staff isn't smart enough, or for sure our old coaching staff was not smart enough to convert him to a linebacker. And even though when you just look at him, you're like, is that guy a linebacker? Because he's like huge. Safeties are normally not that huge, but we don't put puzzles together very very easily here at One Buck Place. Maybe this coaching staff does. Okay, so if you guys are listening over there at One Buck, you guys do. Our past coaching staffs do not, okay? Just to be clear here. But anyway, yeah, Xavier McKinney would be, I think, a good pick if we picked him in the first round. But I just think that an offensive tackle is definitely at need more, and Xavier McKinney would really be a last resort if the Bucs couldn't trade up to get a tackle and were forced to stay where they were, and then none of the tackles fell to them. I would say Xavier McKinney would be the pick that they should make, unless they do some kind of trade, or you know how the draft is. The draft is just a crazy night. But hey, we have something to look forward to. I haven't had sports in over a month. I think what's it been, like 6 weeks now, maybe 7 weeks since the last sporting event. It's crazy. But now we have the NFL draft, something to do, something to look forward to. I mean, I even know random people that don't even like the NFL, and they're like, "Oh, I'm watching the draft. I'm all hyped about the draft." You know why? Because there's nothing to do. There's no sports on. I mean, people are going crazy over this. And I don't blame them. I'm very glad the NFL did not postpone or move the draft, because they don't need to. It would have irritated me. They don't need to. They've already done, all the GMs and the coaches, they've already done all the research, and they can do the draft online just as easy as they can do it in person. So it makes no sense to delay it. I'm glad Roger Goodell saw it the same way I did, and I'm very, very glad we're still having an NFL draft in 2 days from now. So, very, very... this was a very high content podcast here. We addressed a lot of issues. I didn't really get into the draft as much as I would have liked to, because again, hijacked by Gronk, and it's over and done with. Gronk is here to stay, and he's not leaving. It's just going to be something that we have to live with, but I just would not go around saying we're winning the Super Bowl, because we're not going to win the Super Bowl. So that's the issue I have there, and I will make a podcast. Of course, I'm making a podcast right after the draft, probably the very next day on Friday or Saturday, one of the 2 days. And I'm going to talk about, like I did last time. It was my most popular video on the whole page, on my whole page. Um, I'll go through every single draft pick, say the ups and downs, and we'll go through it. Maybe even have our buddy come on, Garrett, again. Maybe not. And yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. So I will see you guys after the draft. And remember, what are we looking for? We're looking for a tackle in the first round, running back in the second round. Okay, that's the goal of this draft. Okay, so just remember that, and I will see you guys next time.